Tumelo Madlala has ended his week in the dock at the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial. Court will resume on Monday. Newzroom Afrika's Mnisi has been watching proceedings throughout the week. His live first at the High Court in Pretoria joins us now live. Linda, sum up what's been dealt with this morning.
Well, Tumelo, you'll remember that the state was re-examining Tumelo Madlala based on the cross-examination that he underwent throughout the week. It's been 5 days of cross-examination, in fact 4 days of cross-examination, and just over nearly a day, really, if you look at it, given that he started his testimony under re-examination just late yesterday. So today, covering some of the points that, the state wanted to try and clarify in as far as his testimony. You'll remember that he was cross-examined, in fact, on a number of issues, including when he was inside the house, what happened when he saw the intruders, as well as the gunshots. Today, he was re-examined on the issue around, the cans of alcohol. You remember they have been consuming alcohol inside the house, and he was asked to clarify on what could have happened really to those cans of alcohol, given the fact that the police seemingly only managed to get 2 cans, when in his testimony he revealed that there was a lot of other alcohol that was consumed in the house. Some, he said, was still in the fridge at the time that the intruders entered. Let's take a listen to when the state really attempted to try and give clarity on what could have happened to those cans.
As you were drinking, what happened to the cans, to the empty cans?
So babileke blend the fridge. So mase kwenzeke le nto angazi the rest amamakani ayabo because bese ngingekho mina besambisa usenze isibhedlela. So angazi kwasala kwenzakalani.
About the issue of the cans, really I don't want to lie about it as to what had happened about the cans, because as we were drinking this alcohol, some of it was kept inside the fridge. So as to what happened with the cans after consuming them, after we have went to the hospital, I cannot tell, because we took Senzo to the hospital.
The issue of the cans, Tumelo, speaking to the issue around the contamination of the scene. So he was asked to remember that whether the cans were removed way before they returned from the hospital, and it seems he agreed with Advocate Msololo's statements that they may have been removed, seemingly adding to that notion and that statement and that belief that there could have been tampering inside the house of the evidence because there were only 2 cans. But you'll remember one of the statements, the big statements that came out, particularly before the September postponement, was the issue around the identification of accused number 2. And he's maintained throughout his testimony that even after 30 years, he would be able to point out Bongani Ndanzi as having been the second intruder in the house. And this is also because he said he threw a punch at, the second accused, or in fact the second intruder, when he had been pinned against the wall by Senzo Meyiwa. Today, in an attempt again to clarify on some of the issues, the state asking him about that particular person and the descriptions that he gave shortly after that particular incident happened. You'll remember initially he told the court how he couldn't really look at the first intruder because that intruder was wielding a firearm, and all he could see around that first intruder was that he wore a mustard jacket, had dreadlocks, and was wearing a hat, and of course was carrying a gun. He was fearing that gun, and that is why he could not look at that particular intruder for quite some time. But it's interesting that it's now revealed in court that the description that he gave to the police at the time in a statement that he gave was that of the first intruder, the same intruder that he said he did not look at properly, but could point out that the second intruder was the one that he saw. Let's take a listen to that.
The question is, at the time when you made the statement, before anybody was arrested, did you give a description? You will correct me if that's not your question.
Yes,
did you give a description of any suspect? And specifically, did you give a description of accused number 2 before anybody was arrested?
Yes,
Yes, the one with dreads and the one who was wearing this hat and also wearing this caramel jacket.
Tumelo Madlala, they're giving a description to the police in that statement about the description of the person. He said he couldn't quite see properly, but he was quite adamant in Begile that, he would be able to point out the second intruder. You'll remember he was also asked in court to describe what the second intruder was wearing, and he said he couldn't remember the color of the jacket of that second intruder, who was less armed, but remembers a certain detail in as far as what the kind of jacket that he was wearing. He said he was wearing a hoodie, and the question was now during re-examination, was that intruder wearing a hoodie? And this could perhaps have hindered him from seeing the identity of the second intruder he was so sure about. And let's take a listen to what he had to say.
In cross-examination by Mr. Tubani, you mentioned that the suspect had a jacket and that jacket had a hood.
Which one do you mean, the first one?
Speak about the second suspect.
afake ijacket ngathi ngewuthi longa sayikhumbula ukhala wayo because manje ngiyabuza ngisakhumbula ukhala kodwa befake ijacket eyihuthi lo.
The second one who was told is the one who was wearing a jacket, even though I don't recall the color of the jacket. That jacket had a hood.
Yes, that is the point. Do you remember as whether the hood was on or not?
I think singaphakathi endlini bingasayigqokile because bingasayigqokile singaphakathi.
Linda Mnisi at the High Court in Pretoria. Thank you, Linda.